All right, guys. So how many here would like to hear from a student who sat in your seat not too long ago and already having success? Would that be beneficial? Would you be able to relate to that? You're not hearing from me all day long, right? Okay. This gentleman attended our boot camp about a year and a half ago, excuse me, and he's already completed 3 deals on his way to his 4th, 5th, and 6th. Okay. He was a prior civil engineer. He's also a licensed agent, and he's been doing very well in his rehab. So, so please give a warm welcome to Mr. Gene Gamble.
How's everyone doing this morning? So as Jan said, my name is Gene Gamble. I'm a realtor with Avery Hess, and I am a rehabber. Feels like I'm introducing myself in an AA meeting. Not a real one, just the ones you see on television. My name is Gene, and I'm a rehabber. I'm going to carbon date myself here for a second. I graduated in 1981 with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. Interest rates were 16%. Nobody was building anything. Nobody was hiring anybody. I did well in school. If one degree is good, more is better, sort of like Jan's story. So I got an offer to stay on as a teaching assistant on a full scholarship plus a stipend to get a master's degree in civil engineering. So did that, got a master's degree in civil engineering. Went to work for a consulting firm. I was primarily a field engineer. I managed construction projects from New Jersey down to North Carolina. Large office buildings. I did a track subdivision construction project for a while. And I spent a lot of time on hazardous waste sites, EPA Superfund cleanup sites. So at the tender age of 25, I had my first midlife crisis. It was on a hazardous waste site outside of Baltimore. It's 95 degrees during the day. I'm wearing a Tyvek suit from head to toe, rubber gloves duct taped to the Tyvek suit, rubber boots duct taped to the boots, respirator, hard hat, and felt like I was going to die. So I went back to school, got a master's degree in business, went off into the IT and software industry for 30 years and did other things. So along that journey, still had my roots with me. I did a ton of do-it-yourself projects. I've gutted kitchens in my own home. I've gutted bathrooms. I built bathrooms where there weren't bathrooms, did all of the work myself. I'm actually a certified home theater designer. I built an 8-seat movie theater in my basement. I've helped friends build movie theaters. Just did a ton of work by myself. Had been with a software company for about 10 years. I just passed my 10-year anniversary. I called it the Chrome anniversary. The award was a set of paper clips. I picked it up in the supply closet on the way out the door that day. Got absolutely nothing in the way of recognition for this company. They pulled me aside one day in February and said, Gene, we're going through some reorganizations here, and you're kind of expensive, i.e. old. You might be at risk. So I went through the process of trying to interview and find another job within the company, actually found something that I had a commitment to. Then I got a call in April of 2015, and they said, it's 4:30 on a Friday. Gene, you no longer have a position here, pack your stuff and get out. So I went home for the weekend and felt sorry for myself, and then my wife is a realtor. She needed help with a real estate business, a deal that was in trouble because of inspections and all that other stuff. So Monday morning I started helping her and never looked back. Got my license as a realtor, but I had both what I thought was an opportunity and a problem. So my problem was I'd moved my mom to a nursing home community, had a house that I grew up in Fort Washington, had been sitting vacant for over a year. It needed everything, and nothing had been done to it. My dad was an avid do-it-yourselfer as well, but he'd been gone for a long time. And I didn't want to spend every weekend for the next 2 years working on this house, so I hadn't started anything, hadn't done anything with it. So that was my problem. My opportunity was I thought this rehabbing thing was something I could do something with. And given my background, I thought I could step in and do it. But I was hesitant because I didn't really, there were things that I just couldn't quite put together. And I didn't have the resources that I needed. I didn't have a financial model that really worked for me, so I didn't really understand the financial piece of it. And turns out I didn't have the right mindset either, and some of that needed to change. So at least I recognized some of those problems. How do I solve that? I started going to meetings like you guys have probably been to. I looked into a number of other training seminars charging exorbitant amounts of money First meeting is a pitch. They tell you how to increase your credit limit so they can charge more money for it, and got absolutely nothing out of those. Fortunately, I walked out of most of them before I had to pay any money. Not sure how I stumbled onto Jan. It was probably through one of the networking meetings. Went into it totally skeptical, made him come to a place in Reston, I think it was, to meet me for coffee so I could grill him. I asked for references. Ultimately, I signed up for one of these meetings, and in November of 2015, I came to the session that you guys are at right now. Everything that you need to be successful is here in this room. That's what I found. That's what you're going to find. So let me tell you about some of the things that I did. About a week after I left this meeting, left this training session, I started the rehab project on the house that I grew up in. The contractor I used is actually here in this room today. He was here in the room before. Everything I needed to set up the LLC, I followed the process that was in the book. So started this rehab project. It was a 1969 Rambler in Fort Washington. I followed the formula. I did the rehab work. I opened up kitchen walls. I redid the kitchen, gutted the bathrooms, finished off a bedroom down in the basement. Ended up spending a little more than I projected on this one. It was about $90,000 I put into it. Got it on the market. It sold in 3 days with multiple offers. Set a new price point for the neighborhood. So got a lot of confidence out of doing that first project. Second one was a 1954 Cape Cod in Rockville. I actually bought it through one of the wholesalers. They kind of messed up on the ARV associated with it. I saw an opportunity to do a little bit more work to the property, but to get to a different price point. Again, spent about $90,000 on that project. It took us 8 months to finish it, so it was a more extended project. It took us 5 months in order to get permits. We tied the record for a price in that neighborhood, and I think we sold that one in 4 days. Just went to closing yesterday on the third rehab. It was a 1964 Rambler in Falls Church. It had already had an updated kitchen, but that was about it. So we gutted the bathrooms, updated those, finished off the basement, opened up some walls, changed the floor plan around a little bit. Ended up only spending about $30,000 on that project. And that one closed in 8 days, longest I've ever taken to sell a house that I've rehabbed. 8 whole days we had to wait. But that's because it backed up to a cemetery. So we had to find somebody that wasn't sensitive to a cemetery that saw it as a beautiful park. And I back up to the same cemetery in Falls Church. That's the way I see it. But we also got multiple offers, and we tied a price point for that neighborhood for that class of product. Couple of things along the way. The Rambler in Fort Washington, one of the big surprises there was it had cast iron plumbing. And we bumped into it with a 2x4 while we're opening up some walls and took a chunk out of it about like that, just went tink and it popped out. We ended up having to jackhammer back underneath the concrete quite a bit, pull all the cast iron waste lines out. We had some challenges with getting the plumbing set up the right way, so we had to kind of go through that a couple of times. So some delays there. Every house has a story. Every one of them is going to throw a surprise at you. If you follow the financial model, you're not going to get burned. You may not make the money you think you're going to make, but you're not going to get burned. Second house, the 54 Cape Cod. That had waste lines that had already been updated before I got there, so like, cool. The surprise there was we were in Rockville City, not in Montgomery County. City bad, county good. Okay, remember that. City bad, county good. The permitting process was completely different. I think they had 2.5 people doing all the permits for the whole city. It took weeks to turn around anything. Instead of being helpful, they'd go through the process, review it, and say, nope, you forgot this. Resubmit that. Okay, that's correct. You forgot this. They didn't say the 5 things that you forgot. It's like a serial process. Nope, you forgot that. 2 weeks, forgot this. 3 weeks, forgot that. It was ridiculous. And a lot of the cities I've come to find out are like that. Third, good. Yeah, because you got to go back to the architect and get him to redo things because we had a more extensive plan with this house. We had to pull permits for everything, and yeah, it costs you money, and then you're paying holding costs on hard money. So that added about $12,000 to the total for the project. just on hard money costs for that extra 5 months of holding time.
And what percentage of that was the profit?
I'll get to that in just a second. So that was the surprise on that project. The Falls Church one, we did a better job of estimating the cost, pretty much hit that number right on the nose. Then we get to the inspection process. After we got a contract established, I dodged one bullet. You guys ever heard of Orangeburg pipes? Write that down, Orangeburg pipes. Go on the internet, take a look at it. Basically Orangeburg pipes. It's named after a city in New York where they manufactured these lovely things called Orangeburg, New York. Basically what it is a cardboard tube like you use to roll up a ream of carpet that's impregnated with tar. And it was prevalent in construction from the mid-1930s until, I think it was 72 that they went out of business. Anyway, in houses in the 50s and 60s around here, you'll see them. Plumbers love them because you could just put it over your shoulder and carry it because it's just a tube of cardboard. They love putting those in. Trees love them too, a lot, because the roots will go right through them. So we dodged a bullet. They wanted to have a full video inspection of the plumbing. I knew there hadn't been any big trees in this front yard. The sewers had never backed up. So we just said no, we got away with it. The big surprise for this house was the chimney. So we thought we were just doing a basic chimney cleaning. We had to reline the flues for a double chimney. So that was a $4,500 surprise right at the end of it. So every house is going to throw you a surprise. Don't worry about that. There's room in the financial model. So results. House in Falls Church, we netted about $50,000. So right on the model, even with all the extra money we had to invest. House in Rockville, because of the holding time and some extra construction costs, we only netted $30,000. Who'd be happy with $30,000? I was. So we had some room. House in Falls Church, we were on a little tighter budget with that one, but we came in roughly where we thought we'd be at about $30,000. So from November of 2015, when I took this class where you guys are, until right now, I've created $110,000 in wealth that I didn't have before I took this class. Okay? So here's the challenge for you guys. Unfortunately, I know from other people that have taken this class and networking meetings I've been to, there's a number of you that are sitting in this room like you're sitting on a beach chair on a tropical beach in the summer. And Jan says something funny, and it's like a cool tropical breeze that blows by. It's like, ah, that's nice. And he shares some epiphany in terms of how to go do this stuff. It's another breeze. Ah, that's nice. At the end of the weekend, you'll go, that was a really nice experience. I enjoyed this a lot. And you won't do a damn thing. For those of you that are inclined to say, I think I want to do something, you're standing on the edge of a precipice, a big cliff. It's right there. And it's scary. It scared me. And I've got a background in construction. You're just going to have to trust the process and trust Jan. There'll be an opportunity that comes either directly through this session or immediately afterwards or through networking with people that have been in this session. Everything you need is right here. All the models are right here. You've got to have the courage to say, I'm going to jump. And once you do, you never look back. It's like being in AA. This is so addicting to go do this. I can't wait to go do 4, 5, and 6. So with that, Jan or anyone, any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Gamble?
Yeah, please.
Positively, which is great.
Yeah.
Would you say there are a list of things that you would have done differently overall? I mean, is there an opportunity to get in with the permitting people up front to say, this is what I need, can you help me out? I mean, any legal way to grease the skids?
What I would say is that you can second guess yourself to death.
Okay.
Just do it. Just jump in and do something. You're not going to anticipate everything. You're not going to be great at doing this the first time you do it. You're not going to be great the second time. You'll get better by the third. By the 10th, this will start to become old hat, but you know, I already see it with myself. I'm looking to take on more challenging projects because, one, it's fun to be challenged. And two, I'm seeing opportunities that would have scared me before, and now I don't have sense enough to be scared by them. So I'm going to keep making mistakes. Make mistakes faster. You learn by making mistakes, make more of them, make them faster, learn faster. Don't worry about trying to figure out a way around everything that could happen. With $50,000 built in as profit as part of your model, you get a deal that fits that model, you got to screw up a lot of stuff to chew through that 50,000. Just go make mistakes. Yes.
I'm just trying to think of the cost for a rehab.
Uh-huh.
You're going to come up with a cost like a cost to replace the entire house, or rehab the entire house.
Right.
Let's say it's $100,000.
Right.
In that particular deal where you had to dig up the concrete and replace the pipes, was that cost in addition to that, the cost to rehab the whole property? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what your question is. So the first one, I had more room between what that house would have sold for in its wholesale-like condition, and that's basically the model that I used. And then when I got done with the project, I'm like, damn, this really looks good. So I went for a price point that was $30,000 beyond anything that it sold for in that neighborhood, and I got it. So you do a good job with what you're doing. Sometimes you'll surprise yourself on the back end. So did it cost more than I projected? Yeah. But I got more than what I thought I was going to get. So it kind of worked out. Same thing happened in Rockville. I projected a price that I thought I could get as the after renovation value. I actually went $19,000 over what I thought I was going to get. Cost me some more. So things flex on both ways. We're in a low inventory situation in the market. We're running about four months of inventory across this region. 6 months is equilibrium between a buyer's market and a seller's market. So it's a strong seller's market. We're seeing about 6% price appreciation in the early part of the year. So there's a seasonality in the early part of the year is when you want to deliver projects if you can. It's region-wide, pretty much across the region. It's going to ebb and flow, so things are not as strong in Haymarket as they are closer in, but in general, prices are appreciating. There is a seasonality, so you'll be up in the early part of the year through the spring market. Let's say it's 6%, you'll give about half of it back going into the fall, so maybe a 3% net for the whole year. And it's kind of repeating that cycle. Whenever I can get it. I'm not scared to deliver one of my projects at the 31st of July, which is the absolute worst time of the market. The second worst time is between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm not afraid to deliver a project then. This Rockville house I put on the market right before Christmas. You do a good job of the rehabs. You follow the model that Jan's going to give you. You work with the contractors that have experience, not the cousins. Not the friends of cousins, the people that are vetted and proven. Build a great product and the customers will come. Yes.
Thanks for sharing. And I have a question about insurances. What kind of insurances did you get for each project?
So
or in
Jan's going to
general?
cover that. He's going to give you a recommendation for a project-specific insurance company. I bought coverage for 2 years, which would cover for me for any after effect about that. I think it was like $800. So it depends on the price of the rehab that you're doing. It's noise. It's not a big cost.
And then liability insurance your contractor has, or you get for yourself, for your company
This
as well?
insurance that I'm talking about has liability insurance built in. Jan's going to cover all that. Good question, but yeah, he's going to cover all that.
How much for your first project, outside of the information that you got, how much hand-holding did you feel you need or did you get, and how much did your history, did that play a big role that you didn't need much hand-holding?
So I talked about mindset as one of the things that was missing. So let me elaborate on that a little bit. So I'm an avid do-it-yourselfer. One of the things that I took away from this session, and I still hear this little voice in my head, it's like, Gene, that's $10 an hour crap, cut it out. And it's Jan talking to me. Actually, it'd be more like this. $10 an hour crap. That was probably the biggest thing for me personally that I took away from this session was an epiphany to change my approach. My parents were from the Depression era. My grandfather was an electrician who ran a hydroelectric plant in Maine. My dad was an avid do-it-yourselfer, never let a contractor touch anything in one of his houses. He built everything. I followed along in those same footsteps. The first house in Fort Washington, I wanted to do some of the demolition myself to save money. It's the stupidest thing I could have done. I spent a couple of days, working on pulling stuff out, and I only got partway into it, and then the contractor shows up with a 4-person crew, and they're just hauling stuff out like crazy. The bathroom's demolished, and it's like, what in the hell was I doing? I don't touch a screwdriver anymore. I don't. I can fire a contractor on a whim, and that's maybe an advantage, but my goal is not to do anything, because they're faster, they're better, they're cheaper. I need to be doing other stuff. Jan's going to cover that as part of the mindset.
All right, guys. We don't have time for any more. We just want time for one more question.
One more
then we'll go on, okay?
I primarily market through networking. And because I'm a realtor, now that I'm focused on doing this, I have a track record. I've got pictures I can show people. It's like, this looked horrible before, it looks great now, new price point for the neighborhood. I network with realtors and try to pick off the properties that are like, oh my God, I can't list that. And I want to kind of become the go-to person within my brokerage to take on those projects. That's kind of the strategy I'm taking. But as Jan mentioned a little while ago, each of you are going to have, a sphere of influence, and you're going to have what you're comfortable with. The strategies will be that work will be different for all of you. So just kind of go with what's good for you, and all of these strategies can work. It's just a matter of what you're comfortable executing and are willing to do, with passion and do over and over again, because it's going to take some persistence.
All right, guys. Give Mr. Gamble a round of
thank you.
applause. All right. Thank you, sir. Great job. And I like the little joke there. I can't do that, though. Good stuff. So how many of you feel a little bit more confident after hearing Mr. Gamble? Isn't it great to hear someone who sat in your seats not too long ago having success? It's a different perspective than having someone teach it. Would you agree? Okay, so we want to teach you all the nuts and bolts, but also we want to give you some inspiration that it is possible, so that way your confidence levels increase after this class. Okay, so let's go through more.